Hey YouTube, Kentucky Madman again. Hey listen, I'm going to replace the wheel bearing on my Jeep here. It's a 1998 TJ. Figured I did the other side yesterday. Figured I got to make a video, so I figured I'd try and do it today. Anyway, first thing you want to do, obviously, is take the wheel off. And once you've done that, you want to get the brake caliper off, which is right back here. You got two bolts. Both of these are 12 millimeter. They're rather easy to take off. When you put them back on, you want to make sure that you torque them on, because if you tighten them too tight, they'll be loose again. So let me go ahead and start taking this off, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, after you got your bolts loosened, and you collapse the caliper a little bit to allow it to come off the rotor, you want to pull the caliper off, but you don't want to let it hang by the hose. Stretch your hose, can snap your hose. It's just not a good idea. What I usually do is take a piece of coat hanger and put a little hook on one end. It slides just through the caliper, and then hang it from the frame. Now keep the pressure off of your hose, and you'll be in good shape. Clip that on and hang it back here out of the way. Once you've done this, you can go ahead and replace or remove the rotor. Okay, there's 3 bolts that hold this rascal on, and let's see if I'll be able to show you these or not. We got one up here right below the ball joint. Got another one right down here, and then you've got one on the back side right here. These are 13 millimeter, and your best bet to get these off after you hit them with some penetrating oil. I generally will clean the threaded size and then spray them. You need to use a 13 millimeter, and your best bet is to use a 12 point, not a 6 point. I've heard people refer to these as inverted torques, all kinds of different things, but the 12 point, be able to see that or not, 12 point socket will fit on there nice. You don't have to worry about it stripping anything out, and I'll get this loosened and we'll be good to go. Okay, after you get the bolts loosened, what I like to do is I keep them a couple threads on. Don't take them off all the way. The reason being, you're going to have to take the nut off, remove the cotter pin, and then I found the 36 millimeter works the best on this. The reason I don't take the bolts out all the way is sometimes you're going to have to use a gear puller on this to slide your axle shaft back. If you start messing with it and you don't have something holding that bearing, you can pull the whole axle out, and then you're going to have to deal with that on top of the other project. So let me go ahead and get this cotter pin out and get the bolt off, and we'll be right back. Okay, I've got the bolt removed, and when you take this off, you've got 2 washers in here. The first one is a real thin compression type washer, and then you've got a regular washer. Don't worry about getting this out now. It'll come off when you pull the hub loose. Okay, once you've gotten your shaft loosened, go ahead and take the bolts out the rest of the way. Hold on to your axle, and you should be able to jiggle this around, and eventually it'll come off for you. Okay, you're going to get the backing plate and so forth. This bearing isn't as bad as the other side was, but you can tell that it's there should be more to it than that. So let's get the new bearing and new backing plate and get this rascal back together. Now what I also like to do after I get done fighting, trying to get this stuff apart, I put a little anti-seize, never seize, on these bolts. It will help retard any rust, and should you have to get back into it, it makes it a lot easier to remove them the next time. The other thing I like to do when I get into these types of things, I went ahead and put a light coating of anti-seize around the inside and the outside of the steering knuckle. It will keep the two metals from rusting together and making it a real bear to get them off. What I'm doing on this, I don't know that you need to. They're painted, so it shouldn't be a problem, but you'll know even with paint, stuff starts to rust. I'll end up putting a light coat of the anti-seize around the back and on the front side where it meets the bearing, and I'll also put a little bit around the edge of the bearing. Okay, after you have your anti-seize on, go ahead and put your brake plate on, run your bolts through. That'll hold it in place. You take your bearing, you can see that it's splined inside just like the shaft is. Bring it up and move it around until it catches. Spin the bearing. Slide that puppy in there. Now, I've noticed with these, you gotta make sure that this bearing's sitting in there flush in order to get the bolts to start. If you're having problems getting something lined up, try pushing on the bottom of the bearing and you'll find out that that'll get it back in the line, and you can get the bolts in, snug them up, finger tight. And with that anti-seize that you put on the threads, like I said, you can do these finger tight and it'll actually be mounted up flush and you're ready to go. At this point you're going to want to torque these 3 bolts down. According to the manual on this thing, these are supposed to be torqued down to 75 foot-pounds. And again, we're going to use that 12-point socket on it. I generally will snug them up, make them fairly tight, but not actually torque them down at this point. And then once you've got it that far, you can go ahead and actually torque them to the 75 foot-pound. Okay, at this point, once you've got that torqued down to specs, you want to put the nut back on. It takes the large stick washer first, then your compression, and then finally the nut. And again, just like anything else on these, if you when you take this off, you're probably going to have to brush away the rust. Use some kind of a penetrating oil. I use PB Blaster myself. clean those threads up with the wire brush. Putting it back together makes it a lot easier, and you don't have to worry about messing up the threads because of rust and other gunk that's still on there. Once you've got that nut back on, tighten down to, I think it's 150 pounds. Go ahead and replace your rotor. And you can unhook your caliper over here. Place the top on. And it'll slide right into place. Just like everything else, put a little bit of anti-seize on these, and that'll keep them from rusting up on you, and makes removal and installation a lot easier. Now, I know a lot of people just go with the old idea of you tighten them down until they're tight. But like I said earlier, the problem that you can run into with that is if you tighten them too far, they get loose again. So, according to the specs on this, these are supposed to be set at 132 inch-pounds. So that's you're going to need I'm using it's a 1/4 inch drive. Most of your standard torque wrenches will not go that low. And you snug those up. And I know it doesn't feel like you're really getting them tight, but if you tighten them farther than that, you're going to have problems. That's all there is to it. Now, I know I didn't show you breaking the hub off with the gear puller, but I mean, that's simple enough. You guys should be able to figure that out. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be back sometime with our next project. Take care. Oh, by the way, feel free to subscribe. I know I don't have a whole lot of videos out there yet, but over time I'll get them out there. You guys be good.